And hello everybody, welcome to Planet Valenti video. I'm Dan Valenti, and we continue our Traipse Down campaign 2023, the municipal side of things. And today, special guest, an old friend, Craig Gaetani. Craig and I go back to the Cavalier days.
A long
Craig.
time ago, Dan. A long, long time ago.
Yeah, and it establishes a point, though, that you, as well as I do, but you're the one who's running for office. You have a long history in this town. Your roots are here. Your family was here, and you know the dynamics of this city. It's not the city it used to be. God knows we know that.
We definitely do.
But it doesn't mean that the city has to stay this way. And I think that's the thrust behind your involvement in politics and in public life, yeah?
Yes, in other words, change is necessary. You take a look at the time we were talking about, a time when we had 8 drum corps in the city of Pittsfield here, and it was a very, very nice time for everybody. People used to go up on North Street on a Thursday night. You could meet all your friends that you had at school and other people that you would meet for the very first time. It was a very nice, dynamic type situation. In comparison to today, we're very, very static, okay? In other words, the city hasn't changed overnight. It has basically depleted itself over a period of time to where we are at what I would call almost rock bottom in this city. Mm-hmm. And the thing of it is, the city can only go rock bottom if it has very poor leadership, okay? And if you have better leadership, the city can become better. If you have outstanding leadership, it can become better and better and better. But what we have is we have stagnation and a static city on our hands right now, predominantly because of the type of government that is existent in the city of Pittsfield.
Let me ask you, Craig, you've taken out papers both for the corner office and for Ward 6 where you live.
Yes.
And I guess as far as you're concerned, that's the big question people want to know, because ultimately on July 28th, you have to file papers for one office.
Yes.
And have you made up your mind yet?
Well, I'm still debating it, okay, because the thing of it is, as you know, I am somebody that's involved in every single ward in every single part of the city, so I'm very, very vocal in lots of things, and I have my hand in lots of things. But at the same time, where I live here in Ward 6, we just do not have any representation whatsoever with Mrs. Dina Guil. There's nothing there, okay? And she's running for her 3rd term. In her first 2 terms, if she said 25 words during the entire 4-year period, that would be a lot. And I look at her as being somebody that we have to get rid of, okay? Nothing personal, but the whole idea here is when you have a person sitting on the city council that's only function is to rubber stamp what the mayor and Mr. Marchetti wants, you've got to make a change there. So you can see where I'm kind of caught in the middle here as to whether I'm going to go for mayor or Ward 6, but I'm still thinking about it, and who knows, maybe pretty soon I'll announce what I'm going to do, but we'll see.
Okay,
we'll see.
Fair enough. And you mentioned a good point about rubber stamping. In fact, I think I used that phrase in my column today. And let me just say, we are taping this on July the 14th, so we're 2 weeks away from the filing of papers. But Craig, you mentioned rubber stamping,
Yeah.
and it goes to the very heart of the role of the city council and government. If you look at the charter and all of the founding papers, if you will, of Pittsfield, mm-hmm. The council is a co-governor equal to the mayor, and it's supposed to be the legislative check on the executive branch.
Exactly.
That's not what we see now.
No, that's not what we see. What we see basically is that the mayor has made it very convenient for herself by putting time into 6 individuals on the city council who she can depend on for every single vote, for everything that she puts up that she wants to happen.
Well, that came
in the
up
city of Pittsfield.
at the last meeting, in fact, the only July meeting,
Yeah.
when you at open mic, and we'll just get that.
Kill that.
At the open mic session, you pointed out the $850,000 of police overtime. That went through at the previous special meeting after the charter objection of Councilor Croниc,
Yes.
and it went through, and it was never a question that it would go through, was it?
It wasn't a question of whether it would go through, but the thing of it is, let's take a look at the mechanics of that situation.
Well, I love the
occurred.
point you make about where did it go?
Well, the thing of it is, as far as I know, it hasn't gone anywhere yet, okay? There's been people that have been talking about it, and the thing is this, when we take a look at the figures that Mrs. Tyre tried to come in with, $850,000 for overtime in the police department, and $650,000 for workings at the sewage treatment plant, for a total of $1.5 million. With the budget to be ended within 3 days of her doing this,
Yes.
we have her coming in looking for $1.5 million.
At the last possible
Last possible that's the last city council meeting that would be there before that vote and so forth. Now, I went to the city council and I tried to show how very, very dangerous it would be to allow the mayor to come in and predict something that she wants and ask for monies when they don't even know what the money's going for. And so I stated at a city council, we'll talk about the $850,000 for the police department first, okay? Did that $850,000 go to one policeman? Did it go to two policemen? Did it go to 40 policemen? Did it go to 90 policemen? And I asked that question of Cavey, Guile, and Conant, and you couldn't get no answer
And
from
of
them.
course, and
no answer.
you got crickets, basically.
Absolutely.
And you know that leads to another question. First of all, a 2-point question: Is that the way to budget? You come in at the last second, and this is for fiscal year 23,
It's for fiscal year 23.
not the
ending.
new spending.
No.
This
This is
is
still old spending.
still old spending.
$1.5 million worth.
At the last second,
Yeah.
and it raised again Councilor Cronic with the charter objections and saying, look, you're coming in here with $1.54 million of request. We have no time really to consider this
Or where that money's going to.
or where the money's going to. Charter objection, let us have at least a couple days to think this over. And I found it curious, just another one of those Pittsfield coincidences, I guess,
Yeah.
that now the Charter Commission is all ready to go, and the word on the street is, from what I'm picking up, is they're looking to either amend the Charter objection or to get rid of it to prevent this sort of thing happening again.
Well, the whole idea here is stop and think. If Mr. Cronic didn't come in with the charter objection, what would we know about that 1.5 million? Because in the interim days that passed since the city council meeting, there's been people talking on your Planet Valenti about that money, where's it going and so forth. And when I came to the city council, I asked distinctly if they knew where that money was coming from. Now, let's go to that sewer plant for a moment, okay? $650,000 for the sewer plant. Now, the question I would have is, are we spending an additional $650 because the consultant's recommended system is failing? Okay, which it is. It has not met the standards that the state required of it at all, okay? It's still failing right to this particular day. And so I asked the question, is one of the ballasted flocculation machines failing? Are two of them failing? Are the holding basins, have they cracked and are they leaking into the Housatonic River? We have no idea what that 580 is for. And this is why I say that probably eventually, in order to get rid of all this rubber stamping and special interest groups, we're going to have to maybe go to city managers. That way, with the city manager, somewhat we can take politics out of the situation.
You know, the second point of all this is the lack of accountability and follow-up. Okay, the money is appropriated, but is it then checked to see that it was appropriated where they said it was going to go?
Right.
Do we have paperwork that shows that, yes, these expenditures went towards those needs? There's really no assurance that they are.
Well, you know, when I was working at Croft Engineering Corp, I picture myself coming to Dr. Croft late in the project being built.
The day before.
The day before, actually 3 days before. Okay?
3 days before,
3 days
yeah.
before, and the bottom line is this: he says to me, "Well, Mr. Gaetani, what's this $1.5 million for?" And I just say to him, it's because we need money for the sand flow. Now, the bottom line is this: do we need new motors on the sand flow? Is one of the walls broken on the sand flow? Is the sand all turned to concrete? It's got to be replaced. Nothing.
Specifics.
Yeah, we have no specifics. We have nothing but generalities. And the person that I might be running against, Mrs. Guile, when you were talking about the charter objection, isn't it ironic that the mayor has appointed her to be on that committee? And I guarantee you that when that comes before the city council, Mrs. Guile will watch what Mr. Marchetti and Mr. White are doing, and whatever they do, she's going to do exactly.
Well,
you won't hear a word from her.
We made the point today, again, the July 14th weekend edition of PlanetValenti.com, that commission, the charter commission that is going to take a look at the charter and the charter objections, is an inside deal.
Of course.
We already know that they're going to find in favor of whatever the suits want them to find in favor of. And this was a topic, you were there, and let me just say, I gotta credit this guy. No one attends more public meetings than Craig Gaetani. He is what I call, we used to save this label for Kenny Ramsdell, for Terry Kinnis, a super citizen. You participate in government, and that's how it's supposed to work. But what about this? You know, you name the commission members, 7 members, but we already know what's going to happen.
Right, and the bottom line is this: you have to understand that for 5.5 years, I've gone to just about every city council meeting, and a reporter from the Berkshire Eagle is right there every single time I talk. Now, you know how many issues I brought up before the city council, and I had in 5.5 years 255 petitions, of which only 20 or 25 were heard. Because under Rule 27, with a very poor city council president, they get buried into the dirt, into the filing chamber, and right to the garbage truck. Out they go.
We could do some quick math. 5.5 years. How many council meetings in a year? 26.
Yeah.
Times 5.5 times
26,
3
5.5, that's over 100.
times 3 minutes.
Times 3 minutes. Yeah, 100. So three. I've talked over 6.5, 7 hours before the city council at 3 minutes each.
Well, let's get into that part of it. If you decide for the corner office, one of your opponents will be your right honorable and our right honorable good friend, the council president, Peter Marchetti. And you and Peter have your little go-to-goes during those 3 minutes.
Well, yes, we do.
Talk about that.
Well, the thing of it is, I have been arrested at city council chambers. Okay, I have to admit it was a disgrace for that to have happened to me, especially on TV. And let's take a look what happened that night where I was arrested. It was the worst night of the worst night of the year. The roads were very slick.
When was this?
This was in January of 2021. Okay. In 21. And I got into the city council chambers. They hadn't started yet, and I said to Mr. Marchetti, I didn't have an opportunity to sign my name on the sheet, but I want to talk tonight. So when I was the only person in there, nobody else was there, just myself. So I get up there, and I'm trying to put out whatever type of thing I was trying to put out that evening. And Marchetti's watching his clock, and the minute it strikes 3, he tries to shut me off completely. I said to him, Mr. Marchetti, I said, look at the audience, look at you people. There's nobody here. I said, don't you think you could extend me a little tiny bit more time, considering I came out in such tough weather? Well, he started banging the gavel, and I'm trying to talk to him, and before you know it, the police are coming to arrest me in a city council meeting. And of course, the Berkshire Eagle and a lot of the media, they love stuff like that. They had me on the front page of the Berkshire Eagle. Berkshire was talking all about it. It was big time news, trying to put me in my grave here, and I'm the only one in the city coming to the city council meeting that night to try to help JQ Public.
There's a great story about that term citizen. It goes back to the great Roman senator, the Greek senator Pericles, and Pericles makes this impassioned speech before the Senate, and he's coming, he leaves and he's going home and he's got his security with him, and a person who, a Craig Gaetani, let's say, who was in the audience, who disagrees with Pericles, comes up and he starts getting into a heated debate with Pericles about his position. And the guards move in to remove this man, and Pericles says, "Stop. Do you realize this man holds the most important position
Citizen.
in our government?"
Citizen.
Citizen.
Absolutely.
That is the most important role in our type of government. We have gotten so far away from that,
It's
Craig.
completely ridiculous. The thing is this now. I always tell people that there's only one group of people that's important at a city council meeting. That's the citizen who's paying all the city's bills. In other words, on a day when there's only one person ready to talk at a city council meeting because the place is empty, what would be wrong with allowing a couple additional minutes?
Well, I've noticed on
Other speakers, they
can
get
go
additional
beyond.
time. Yes.
Mrs. Kempthorne went beyond 3
Oh
minutes
yes, I
the
think
other
she
night,
went about a minute and a half over.
and there's
Yeah.
no problem with that.
No, there's not.
You can't let someone go on for 25 minutes, but that's not what we're talking about.
Right. I was just trying to finish a point that I made that I could have wrapped up in about 30 seconds, but it turned into a dialogue of about 5 minutes between me and Mr. Marchetti, and he's banging the gavel, and I'm saying to myself, this is like the Old West. I'm getting ready to be shot here, but this is my trial.
Yeah, it's like the hanging judge, Roy Bean.
Roy Bean.
The guy in front of him says, "Am I going to get a fair trial?" And the judge says, "Yeah, you're going to get a fair trial, and after it's over, we're going to hang you."
Yeah. You know, Dan, we laugh at these type of things, but when you sit down to really take a look at them, it's a disgrace.
It's a laugh to keep from crying, actually.
Absolutely.
Because, well, you mentioned that sometimes you are the only citizen there, or maybe there'll be a handful of, or maybe more if there's a special issue. But what's your theory on why the people not only don't attend council meetings, but voter turnout is appalling?
Well, let me just say this, my own opinion.
Yeah.
When people take the time to listen to a city council meeting, they see what goes on. They see how ridiculous it is, okay? And this type of situation whereby when a city councilor wants to talk, they say, through you, Mr. Marchetti, blah, blah, blah. When you add up the minutes in a city council meeting, that time for that type of nonsense, it equals about 15 to 17 minutes that you can't talk about anything else. I think what should happen is a council should raise his hand, be recognized, and that's it. Whatever he wants to do.
They would have to get rid of Demeter's
rules.
Rules of procedure.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's another question. Does a Pittsfield now, we were once 60,000 or 40,000, do we need 11 councilors? I don't know.
And the thing is this, when we had 60,000 people, basically we had budgets that were of such that the people in this city could afford them. Even people on a lower type income could survive here. Here in the city of Pittsfield now, the biggest employer is the city of Pittsfield. The highest salaries are for employees of the city of Pittsfield. And look what we get for a city council. Okay? Now, why is it very difficult for me to win any race? Because I'm an outsider, okay? I admit to the fact that I'm an outsider. I don't go for people staying in city government for 20 years and coming out with a pension for the rest of their lives in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, who's paying that? The poor people living on Dewey Avenue, Francis Avenue, Daniels Avenue. They're barely able to keep their head above water, and when they see this, they just say, I don't want nothing to do with it. And to answer your question, that's why we don't see them come to city council meetings, and they don't vote, because they say that it is not fair.
And that sets up the snake eating its own tail, because the more apathy we have, the more power that these special interests achieve.
Absolutely.
So that basically, in a situation like that, it is not only possible, but it happens, it seems, every election cycle, that an election is hijacked by, if you get your core group out,
Yeah.
who are overly represented by the fact that other people are not participating, you know?
Yeah.
And that's it. And it's a tough thing to, how does this end? Where do you break that cycle?
It is very, very difficult. In other
It's
words,
something that you have been
I've been trying
fighting
for seven
Yep.
and a half years, actually. 5.5 years very active at the city council, but 2.5 years prior to that. Now, you remember when I invited you to come take a look at a sand float at the Cleveland drinking water filtration plant.
I remember well.
We were shut off. The gate was locked. We wanted somebody to call somebody that could get us in. Nothing ever happened. And from that day on, I have never ever been in the plants that I invented, designed, and built.
That's amazing. What permissions would you need to enter?
Well, the bottom line is this. I had sent a letter to the mayor before asking for permission to get in there so that I could see if I could reduce the cost of $84 million of updates, which they say they need at the drinking water plants. Now, when I tell you this, you're going to say to me that you're crazy. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. You know what I say they need at the drinking water plants? Nothing. Now, where's the proof of the fact that we need nothing? I live in Pittsfield right here. The water coming to my house is as far as you can get from the treatment plants. And it comes here crystal clean, okay? And it hasn't had a violation ever since the plant has been built, 47 years. Savings to the city when we built it, they were going to build a $150 million facility. I, myself, and Dr. Croft and Dr. Wong built it for $32 million.
But what's all this noise about in the last couple of years about these upgrades and it's going to cost $60 million for
Well,
this?
the thing is, Dan, let me just stop you right there. Who's to say otherwise? Okay, can you think of anybody on the city council who could say otherwise? These people are completely lost.
Who
Okay?
is saying that?
Well, from
Is
what
this the EPA or?
well, the DEQE, Department of Environmental Quality Engineering, and the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, are looking at a flotation plant with sedimentation eyes. Okay, flotation plants are very inexpensive. They're very, very, very efficient. They're trying to get the city of Pittsfield to turn our flotation clarifiers into sedimentation clarifiers. And there's no justification for it. Now, who's running the city right now in these projects? Kleinfelter Consulting Engineers and Metcalf and Eddy. Their new name is AECOM. They have the council completely buffaloed. Have you ever
Is
heard?
it for money?
Well, the bottom line is this. If I say it takes nothing, and they say it's going to take 84 million, there's 84 million on the table.
Yeah.
I'm not talking 8.4 million.
Yeah.
I'm talking 84 million.
Well, you raised some good points. Let's finish up on this topic. But
Yeah.
Could a city councilor say, "I want to take Mr. Gaetani in. He knows this stuff inside and out. I want to take him in just to see what he's." Could a councilor do that?
Now, the
As
thing
far
is,
as you know.
I went to see, I called Mrs. Kalinowski here, and I brought her into my house. We talked, okay? This was about maybe a year and a half ago, and I thought that she was going to pick up on this and ask me at a city council meeting to accompany her to the treatment plants, but that fell by the wayside, okay? And no councilor has ever called me, not a one. The mayor's never called me to say, Mr. Gaetani, what are you talking about? Now, again, not to be long-winded and not to put myself in the center on the spotlight, if I say that my sand floats, and I use the word my because I want to say my, they were invented by Dr. Croft and Dr. Wong and myself. So they're ours, okay? Our sand floats have worked flawlessly for 47 years. Why would you change them? What's the justification for making a change in the two drinking water filtration plants when they've never had a violation?
See, that's the problem with you. You ask too many of these tough questions. They don't like tough questions.
They like easy questions.
They like the easy questions that
yes.
they get on these other debates that are held and
Fluff programs.
fluff programs, marshmallow, lollipops,
Yeah.
and rainbows.
Changing the sign over at the Barrington Stage Company. One counselor has taken all the credit in the world. She had a change put on there. Boyd and somebody else that were instrumental in putting that together. That's what this person was doing with her time, getting a sign change.
There are no other issues in the city of Pittsfield
Other
that
than
are
that
more
sign.
important than that.
Than that sign.
Let's get clear about that. Well, let's talk about issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Corner office. Let's say you run for that.
Yes.
What do you see as the top could you single out one or two issues that you would go for first?
Yes, the very first thing I would do is, number one, I would fire Mr. Morales, okay, because he's a guy that's he has expertise in streets, okay, not in public works. He'd be the very first one to go, and then I would put together a water and sewer commission that was comprised of people who have scientific or engineering type backgrounds, so that when somebody like myself comes forward and says, you're charging 84 million and I say I can do it for zero, engineers and scientists will listen to that
And understand.
and understand it and say, wait, we better listen to this guy. Then on top of it all, I would say to them, I've done it already once in the 80s, went from 150 to 32 mil.
Has the technology changed?
The technology in our sand floats,
Yeah.
don't need to change them, they're perfect.
Okay.
We're
They still
selling
work today?
we're selling the same type of units throughout the world, even today.
Even today?
Even today,
No
the
kidding.
same thing.
Wow.
Now we even people in pharmaceutical grade water. We can produce pharmaceutical grade water by adding some carbon crystals to the sand filters, and we can come up with water that's pharmaceutical grade. Why don't we do it here in the city of Pittsfield? Well, the standards that the state and federal government have put together say that we don't need any addition, so that's what we keep.
What about budget, Craig? Always comes up. We're now at $205 million. It seems the budget goes up, up, up. Services go down, down.
Yeah, the thing is we went from 60,000 people in the city of Pittsfield. Now we're down to 40, but the city jobs have risen through the ceiling, the number of jobs that exist in the city of Pittsfield. And the bottom line is this: these are not jobs that like they used to be. If you worked for the city, you were guaranteed a lifetime job, and you would have a reasonable pension in the end. Now, basically, everybody's getting more pay than corporate executives in some instances that run big companies, big companies. And then when they retire, you're stuck with their pensions, and then you're stuck with additional things called OPEB, other post-employee benefits, and the fund is short by almost $500 million, $500 million. Where is the city of Pittsfield going to come up with that kind of money?
How would you deal with the spending?
The spending, I stated when I ran for mayor before, I would look at every single department in the city of Pittsfield, and I would say to them, I want your budget reduced by 7%. I don't care how you do it, okay? Just do it. And after that first year, I may take a look and see if it's possible to take another 7% the following year, and so forth and so on, so that we get down to the point where we have a city council and mayor and city workers that are comparable to a 40,000 population city. Because what we have now is we have more people that are in there because it's wrong now, because it's the fees that we're charging now are completely out of kilter. The types of salaries that we give to all the city workers, it's way too much. Here's a question you just asked a little while ago. I'll say it too. What's the bust point?
Okay, can we pause right now? Yeah, we're going to take a pause right now. Dan Valenti here, back again on Planet Valenti Video. And be sure to check out the Planet, www.planetvalenti.com. Also, the Craig Gaetani News Hour, which is on once a week on PCTV. Check out their schedule. And speaking of Craig Gaetani, we're continuing our discussion with him.
Craig,
great opportunity for us to do this.
My pleasure.
We talked about papers both for the office of mayor and the Ward 6 councilor.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Ward 6 a little bit if we can.
Well,
what do you see as the key issues first off?
Well, the thing is this, we were talking during the break. The city of Pittsfield, if there's any ward that really is made up of a melting pot of people, it's Ward 6. You have the upper west side of the city of Pittsfield that's made up of all people with incomes probably in six figures and plus, okay? Then you have the other side of the city of Pittsfield, streets like Robbins Avenue, Dewey Avenue, Francis Avenue, Daniels Avenue, down there where people have probably the lowest incomes of anybody in the city of Pittsfield. And so it's a very complex ward, and people have got to know you, and I've lived in Pittsfield for 75 years. I'm 75 years old. The only time I was out of Pittsfield was one time when I was in the military, including 17 months of hard time in Vietnam. All other times I've been here. I know many, many people in the city from the Upper West Side. I know many, many people on the Lower West Side. And when we were talking earlier, we said, what seems to be the problem that the people from the Lower West Side don't vote? Well, the thing of it is, I'm thinking that they've seen what's happening at city council meetings, and they decide they don't want no part of it.
Well, here's the point.
Yeah.
You are well known throughout 6 on both sides of 6.
Both sides
the
of 6.
have side and the have not side
Yes.
of 6, and maybe even to some extent even more on the Lower West Side. What about the current counselor in 6? Is she known for her presence in 6?
In the Lower West Side,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met a person that's ever met her. Okay, nobody has ever seen hide nor hair of her on the Lower West Side. On the Upper West Side, yes, she has gone and done some canvassing in the Upper West Side. But the question is, why isn't it she doesn't do some canvassing in the Lower West Side?
It's a great
And
question.
the thing is this, I'm an individual who knows the West Side, Lower West Side much better than I do the Upper West Side, because I didn't come from money, okay? We lived on the Lower West Side, Robbins Avenue. My mother and father lived there for 75 years, and they're gone, and my sister Gail was born in that house, has been there 15 years after their birth. The Gaetani homestead on Robbins Avenue is 90 years old, 90, okay? So the Gaetanis have been here for 90 years, and most of the time, half of my life was spent on the Lower West Side, and the other half is right up here in the Upper West Side where I live also.
Would you say the Lower West Side has been forgotten or shunted in terms of politics?
A long time ago. It was all forgotten about a long, long time ago. Every now and then we see some parties in Durant Park. We see parties on the new Riverview Park on Dewey Avenue.
And you might see a photo op for the Christian Center.
Oh,
or,
sure. Anybody certain city councilors and the mayor, they definitely go there to make sure that they get a photo op. But that's the last time you'll see them until the next opportunity exists. They have another.
I would
photo
hazard
op.
a guess that if Craig Gaetani gets in toward 6, the Lower West Side will have representation that they have not seen in decades.
That's absolutely the truth.
Because that's
Absolutely.
where your heart is, Craig.
My heart is there. The thing is this, now, I tell people that come to my house here, they say, oh, this is a gorgeous house, blah, 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 the neighborhood, blah. Now, let me tell you something about the neighborhood in the Upper West End Side. I don't know my neighbor to the left of me. I don't know my neighbor to the right. I don't know the neighbor in back and the person in front. Nobody even communicates with each other. Down on the Lower West Side, what we do, we still do it to this day. My sister, who lives on Robbins Avenue, we put together in the summertime a big bowl of popcorn. This is what we did when we were younger. And the people would stop by and talk to us, have a little popcorn and so forth. And my sister still does it a little bit, not to the extent we did it before, because she's getting up in age too. I'm 75 and she's 74, so we're both getting there. But the bottom line is this, I could take a walk down to the west side and I could say to you, the Hamiltons lived here, the Persips lived here, these people lived here, these people lived here. I know them all because I had a paper route for years in the Lower West Side, so I knew all the people.
You were hustling even back then.
I was hustling even then, Dan, yeah, even then. But the thing of it is, down there we see second, third, and sometimes fourth generations of people living in the same households, just like my family. My sister Gail and her husband are still living there. And they'll live there until the day they die. Now here's how I can show you how much my sister loves the Lower West Side. This house, I'm all alone, okay? It's a massive house. It's a big house. I said to my sister, I'm going to give you this house. I want you to come up here and live, and we're going to put both of our brothers in each apartment at her house, up and down. She wouldn't move. So I had another beautiful house on Pex Road, which I still have. I said, maybe you'd like to go up there. Now, these are beautiful homes we're talking about. You could live like a king and a queen, okay? Robbins Avenue. It's still on Robbins Avenue.
Well, and it,
You know why, Dan? Because their friends are there.
Yeah.
The next generation of kids and so forth, we know them.
well, there's warmth, there's humanity, there's real emotion, there's, I guess, what we think of when we think of the city that used to be, really, that we've gotten away from.
Old Pittsfield.
Old Pittsfield.
Yeah.
Well, still some of that over on the lower west side. What about issues for Ward 6? I know we talked about roads.
Yeah.
Maybe say something about that, and relates to your point about the Department of Public Works.
Yes.
Roads.
The roads are in Ward 6. The roads are an absolute mess. Now, it's funny when you just came up here. The first thing you said to me, you said, "Craig, the roads are a mess there on West Street," and you were mentioning one particular drain cap. Okay,
A manhole
cover,
The
and it
lip
with about 6 inches of a lip on it.
It's not painted orange.
No,
it's
not painted orange. There's
warning
nothing there.
sign.
And if you get a little too close to the gutters are a mess also. They're filled with holes. Now, Mrs. Guile could get away with this in the wintertime because we know it's very difficult to deal in the winter. But it is the dead of summer now, and these roads are a mess. Now, if you go down in the lower west side, some of the roads are brand new, which is very nice. The people have their nice homes on those streets. They take care of everything. But on the streets that are not taken care of by the city, you don't see people showing too much interest in their homes because they feel it makes no difference. And so consequently, what I will do if I do run for Ward 6 and I become elected for Ward 6, I'm going to pay very, very, very close attention to the roads in Ward 6 so that people can get around and get around well.
Do you think you'll be able to work with, let's say you get elected to 6,
Yeah.
would you be in the position of, say, what Charles Cronick is in Ward 2, again, a voice of opposition, serving in a proper role of checks and balances?
Yeah.
Would you be able to get things done politically,
Well-
or would they shut you out?
Well, the thing of it is, there's a good opportunity if the city council remains like it is today. In other words, the 6, we all know the 6 rubber stamps. We talk about them all the time. If those 6 rubber stamps were to come back, if 5 of them were to come back, hopefully I could knock off Guile. It's going to be very difficult, okay? It's going to be just as difficult as Mr. Cronick has it. However, the difference here is I'm a known quantity in the city of Pittsfield by the upper west side and the lower west side. I'm a known quantity.
Yes.
And the people know that I built the water plants and saved them $115 million. They know that, okay? The people around here know it. And the media, I cannot really say much good about the media because if you take a look at just yesterday's paper, they said that one of the first people to take out their papers was Mr. Kroll. I was the very first person on the date that you picked up the papers to pick up my papers. And they're saying that Mr. Kroll was the first person. And the bottom line is this, they've had shows on TV. This guy, it's Pittsfield Tonight, he brought on 3 candidates, and I guess that his logic for not inviting me was that my papers weren't certified yet. Well, I'm in the exact same position as Mr. Kroll is right now. His papers are not in. And look at the coverage that he's got from local media.
And I said on the Planet that you should have been in on that show.
On that debate, yes,
Yeah.
If I don't call it debate, I call it a circus hour.
Right, but you had a great point, comment on the Planet that you actually won the debate by not being there.
Yes, I put that on there, and I didn't know how many people would catch it, but you caught it right away. You
Yeah.
saw it right away.
I sure did.
I was going to put on there, by the fact that they didn't invite me, I won the debate. But I was kind to them, as you can see. We made a little joke of it, but I was kind. But the thing of it is, what are you going to do in Ward 6? You're going to take a person that's been here in Pittsfield for about 7 or 8 years versus a person like myself that's been out there for 75 years. And I'm one of the favorite sons of the city of Pittsfield because of all benefactors to the city of all time, they don't equal the $115 million that I saved with the water plants. And if I can put an end to this, if I be Ward 6 and they're doing work on the sand floats up at the water treatment plant, I'm going to call for a halt, okay?
Well,
and then I'm going to have my say on it.
I was gonna bring up that point, one criticism that we hear about Craig Gaetani is that he keeps bringing up the 1980s. It's not the 1980s, but, and I think that's a fair point.
Sure. Absolutely.
However-
Again, I get rid of this right here immediately.
Yeah. If that's my broker, tell him to sell.
Yeah, tell them to sell.
Yeah. Okay. But we talked about in terms of the water issue today.
Yeah.
So
It's the same thing today that it was 40 years ago. In other words, 40 years ago, the city was being represented by a company called Met Gaetani. They're still around. They're city's consultants today under the name AECOM.
yeah,
The same scenario is occurring. They're saying 84 million, and here comes this outsider, Gaetani, saying zero.
yeah,
Now, this is not precedent that I'm setting right here. This has occurred once already,
yeah,
and we saved that money.
yeah.
And I'm telling you, okay, that's what my life's work was. I was into building water filtration plants, sewer plants, de-inking operation, food processing, meat packing, you name it. All types of clarification
Well,
of water.
And you made a good point too that you have to have people of science, and people
And
with those
engineering.
backgrounds to understand
Absolutely.
these issues. But to get us back into 6,
Yeah.
we got roads. What else?
Well, we have roads and we have massive blight, okay? And if you take a good look around the lower west side, there's a massive amount of blight. And the thing is this, some of the people that's homes are so run down and so forth, it's because they don't have any money to repair them, okay? And so I think that the city should do something. In other words, have low interest rate loans available to people on the west side so that they can bring their homes up and increase the value for their equity that they have in their homes and whatnot. But the lower west side is basically a forgotten side, and it's definitely forgotten by Mrs. Dina Guil, who holds a seat in Ward 6 right now, but is totally useless.
Do you think someone like Dina Guil Lampiazzi could be
That's another one.
elected to 6 if there were robust turnout?
If there was robust turnout, she wouldn't have a prayer. She wouldn't have a prayer.
Which goes back to our point again about turnout.
Turnout.
And would you say that turnout would be one of the keys should you decide for 6?
Yes, unfortunately, it is going to be some of the keys, because what happens is Mrs. Dina Guil is definitely connected to this GOB SIG network. She's in there. And you notice when they were trying to
Good old boys,
special interest groups. There you have it.
GOBSIGs.
GOBSIGs, your police department, fire department, DPW, city workers, etc., etc. Nothing wrong with these people, all good people.
A lot of good people.
But these people know where their bread is buttered, okay? And Mrs. Guil is one of the butterers of bread for these type people.
A butterer of bread.
A butterer of bread.
I love it.
A butterer of bread, yeah. And basically it does work, because that's the individual that's putting the butter on the bread so that they can eat a nice sandwich with butter on it.
And again, we're talking about if the people stay away in numbers that they do and have been, we hope not for this election, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Then it just lends more power to these small
GOBSIGs.
cadres
Yeah.
of special, and they are special interests.
They are definitely
They
special
are
interests.
interests that would put forth the concerns and the needs of a small group as opposed to what would benefit citywide.
Right, that's a big problem. And of course, I've seen you ask on the Planet Valenti many times, you asked the JQ public, where are you at city council meetings? Where are you at election time? Do you realize that you hold the key that might be able to make the city a better place? You hold the key, but you don't turn the key. You just hold it, you don't turn it. And what we need people to turn the key in large numbers. Let's all get out there and let's all vote, because when everybody votes, we know what the bulk of the people are thinking about. And the type of elections we've seen in the past and what's coming up here, we know the special interest groups will be voting.
Yeah.
And that
Well,
puts me, a guy like me, behind the 8 ball almost right from the very start.
Yeah. Let's, you mentioned high turnout means that you have a better idea of what the citywide people want, what they think. Ballot questions came up in the last council meeting, and I wrote on the Planet that whenever the question of putting something on the ballot to let Mary Jane and Joe Kapansky have a say on an issue, seems like the council goes
Falls
crazy.
apart. They fall apart.
They fall apart. They don't know what to do.
Yeah.
What does yes mean? What does no mean? Let's send it to the city solicitor. Let's get the questions worded.
Too much government, Dan. It's way too much government.
Great point.
Government is too big. The government here in the city of Pittsfield is too big. We should have every single councilor be an ward, council at large position, every single one of them. Because what happens is when you set up in these wards, generally there's a faction of the gobsig in every single ward throughout the city.
But wouldn't that lead to a ward not being properly represented?
Well, the bottom line is if you could...
If they were all at large.
Well, if you could convince the people, if we've ever made a change like that, you could convince the people that this is done for their benefit, okay?
Yeah.
So that we can make sure that if you're going to sweep a street up on Woodmont Estates, you're going to sweep a street on Robbins Avenue, okay? And if people could only get the understanding that this is what it would turn out to be if we had good turnout in the elections, but it can't be unless there's turnout. So the key word coming up is turnout. We've got to have turnout. And anybody that's watching this program, talk to your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your grandmother, your grandfather, everybody to get out and vote so we can see exactly what the majority of the people in the city are thinking, not the minority.
Yeah, and then you have a sense that representative government is truly what it claims to be.
Yeah.
And right now, I think everybody who has a stake in this, which is everybody really,
Yeah, everybody has a stake.
would admit that right now it is not representative.
No.
On all levels,
On all
federal,
levels, yeah.
state, and you
And-
make a good point though. Too much government.
Yeah.
We're the city of Pittsfield. It's a city of 40,000. It shouldn't be that difficult.
No,
But it is.
the thing of it is, it's a very, very tough question to answer. If you
Yeah.
put the question to somebody,
Yeah.
it's a tough question to answer. Everybody, you could go on North Street right now and you would find people that would complain. Just about everyone you talk to, they'll complain.
Yeah.
But that's the same people that we would like to have come to a
Yeah.
city council meeting or to go out and vote. But unfortunately, they don't. Now, on Planet Valenti, you mentioned many times, please, Mary Jane and Joe Kapansky, come to the polls. Come to city council meetings. And of course, on my TV show, I used to talk about it for almost 2 years right in a row,
Yeah.
about citizen participation.
At what point, Craig, do you get frustrated? Do you kind of say, forget it, I've tried, I've done everything I can, there's no more, nothing more I can do?
The thing is this, Dan, I in my lifetime have never been a quitter, okay? I don't quit. In other words, people say to me, Mr. Gaetani, you're talking about the same old thing time and time again. And the way I look at it is, sometimes the redundancy is absolutely essential. Now, you were a teacher, I was a teacher. You know that in classes, you have to be redundant in order to pick up the bulk of the members of the class. You have to. That's how you taught, I'll bet.
Sure, yeah. They say in public speaking, you need to go back to the topic at least 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, you know that too from your experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
And try as we might, it comes down to an individual choice. And I really wonder, people are living such hurriesome and worried lives today. You mentioned some just trying to make ends meet at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I feel like government's just
Failed them. Yeah.
nickel and diming them, taking every little bit of coin out of their pocket that they can.
Their discretionary money is now committed.
That's a good question. People say, well, Pittsfield is not the highest taxed city in the Commonwealth. When you factor in discretionary income,
There's very little for people in this city.
we are the highest taxed city in town.
Absolutely.
It becomes discouraging when each year you're paying 5-6% more, but it seems like you're getting 5, 6, 10% less.
Very, very difficult. You're 100%. In other words, we watch the city workers. They seem to be doing very fine under this administration. Okay, they're getting their yearly raises, 5, 6, 7, 8% in some instances. And what I see here is when they start talking about, well, we have to up the salary to get good people. Not necessarily so.
What would you say to people who say you have no chance, you're too dangerous? They will find a way to stop you.
Well, the thing of it is, I'm very well aware of that, okay? I'm
Yeah.
very, very well aware of that
Yeah.
because the point is, I didn't come on the scene here a year ago or 2 years ago. I've been on the scene for a long time.
He didn't just fall off the turnip truck yesterday.
Not yesterday,
No.
day before.
Right.
Day before.
He was in the drum line of the turnip truck, actually.
The drum line, at least we made noise then. That's what people need to do
That's
today.
it, Craig.
They need to make noise.
Nice.
Yes, the thing of it is, it's very difficult for somebody like myself that has my attitude and my opinions to really go too far, because someone may just take a look at me and say, well, this guy here, he's talking through his hat, and that person talks to another person. Before you know it, you're tagged as some kind of a wacko.
Oh,
I'm certainly no wacko.
I used to marvel at the fact when I had my daily radio show,
Yeah,
I'd say something in the morning,
yeah,
and then in the evening, I'd hear from someone either in person or someone would send me an email. Dan, I heard you say so and so about such and such. And I said, I did? And it's usually from people who get it second, third, fourth hand.
and then it changes so much you don't even know if it's the same question.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
But word of mouth, though, is important. One tells two, two tells four.
Four
and you
tells
get
16, so yeah, and so
and
on.
You get this progression. How
Yeah.
will you campaign? You know, people say, well, he's not going to put money into it. He's not going to do this. He's not going to do that.
Well, I'll campaign. In other words, my name,
Without revealing any secrets.
without revealing any secrets. Actually, my name is probably more well known than most people that are on the city council. My name may be well known enough.
Do I recall Gaetani Real Estate?
Gaetani Real Estate, yes, we have, because the thing of it is, I do own a lot of real estate and I have a lot of rental apartments. Okay, I even have I have one place that's a 5-unit condominium complex. So I am heavily into real estate, and I'm not going to tell you the type of money I spend in taxes for this real estate.
Oh.
And the bottom line is this: am I a successful person? Well, I guess I am. In other words, I worked very hard to be in the position I am in, and I hope that people will realize that I'm not just some jerk out there talking through my hat.
No.
I'm not. In other words, I love the city of Pittsfield. I love its people. And I love the people on the west side more than anybody else because that's where my life was, okay?
I think
and my friends.
I think the public perception of you, Craig, is of this noisy, angry, whatever.
No.
And you just hit on a word that we don't often talk about when we do these things, and that's love.
Yes.
This guy has a lot of it in his heart. Craig, we go back
A long time.
to our Boys Club days.
Yeah.
And they don't see that side of you. And I truly believe, this is just a personal statement, it's not a political statement,
Yeah.
that you are motivated by love and concern.
Absolutely, I am. In other words, I also, because I'm very well off, I have lots of friends that I lend money to that I'm never going to get it back, okay? But the thing is I thank the Lord for making me very, very rich, okay? I'm a rich person, okay?
Well, why don't you put some of that into the campaign?
Well, the thing is this, like I said, I'm going to put the signs in, but I'm trying to show people that you can be a person doing the campaign by yourself, and if you use the media correctly, your name will get out there, and maybe this will tell some very young, smart person that, hey, I can maybe do this myself because I'm not too well known here. I don't have many people I could go to borrow money from and so forth. So what I'll do is I'll do the best I can to capture the media. And so I'm trying to educate the masses that you can do it, okay? Give it a try. And the bottom line is this, like I say, many people that I know have fallen on very hard times. My friends on the west side, okay, on the west side. And many of them, they know that I have a good heart, which I do. I have a good heart, I give them money, and I don't expect it back because they can barely keep their head above water.
Do you think Pittsfield's the kind of town that could realistically expect to draw new business, fresh, outside, private capital?
Not under the present circumstances. In other words, with the present administration we have in City Hall and the mayor, that's almost an impossibility.
Do you have a favorite, let's say you don't run for mayor or become mayor?
Yeah.
Would you back any of the candidates right now?
Well, the thing of it is, it's a little bit too early for me to back any of them. In other words, I probably will endorse somebody, but I want to watch as much media coverage of the people as possible.
Sure.
And the Berkshire Eagle, during campaign season, they should open up a page in the paper for the whole campaign season from August right through the elections, and let the candidates have their say in the newspaper and so forth. Because you know as well as I do, with your show and my show that we had, we only reached certain numbers of people, okay? And it's not like you can put it down and then you can pick it up and read it later. If someone doesn't catch your words that day, they're never going to catch your words. So we do recognize, I recognize that the Eagle's a very bad newspaper. It's not a good newspaper. Set up a page where the people running for public office can speak on issues that they want to speak of.
Will you do any literature, maybe a flyer or
I'm
a
thinking
drop
of it.
card?
Yeah,
something like
I'm
that?
thinking of it. In other words, the drop card, the drop card would be something that I would be interested in. In other words, maybe I just show them my background a little bit, what I did for the city of Pittsfield, and go from there and see what happens.
We got 1 minute.
Yes.
You got some news for us?
Yes, I do have some news for you. I told a little lie when I first started the program earlier today.
Gosh.
I am going to run for Ward 6.
Whoa. Folks, you heard it there, and you heard it on this show first.
First time.
Craig Gaetani is in for Ward 6. Dina, you better load up the firearms.
I would suggest that she wear a diaper maybe when she comes to a debate.
Well, Craig Gaetani, I'll tell you, every time we run into you, it's always good.
What I like about it is when I sit next to you here, it does remind me of our days when we were young.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah.
And folks, thank you for tuning in. I'm Dan Valenti on behalf of Craig Gaetani, our ace camera and sound man Dave Bubrinsky. This is Planet Valenti Video. So long, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.